What's up? I'm Ross, and it looks like Big College just got caught in bed with big media. Let's get into this article by it blows my mind, but the New York Times is actually the ones that are exposing this. So let's get into it. US News makes money from some of its biggest critics, colleges. US News sells badges to colleges so they can promote their rankings, whether they are first, 10th, or much, much lower. And this article is from Alan Blinder from January 6, 2024. Jonathan Henry, a vice president of University of Maine in Augusta, is hoping that an email will arrive this month. He is also sort of dreading it. The message, if it comes, will tell him that U.S. News and World Reports has again ranked his university's online program among the nation's best. History suggests the email will also prod the university towards paying U.S. News through a licensing agent thousands of dollars for the right to advertise its rankings. So imagine that. College prices are off the chains. Kids are taking out loans that they are carrying for the rest of their life, that are saddling them with debt, that are delaying, buying homes and marriage and having kids, all because they have student loans that they paid to these schools. And these schools are out buying rankings from U.S. News and World Reports to get more students slash victims. It's I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me. I'm all for capitalism and free market, but this just seems wrong, and the value of a college education is going down while the cost of a college education is going up, and people are taking out lifelong loans that cannot be bankrupted to go to these expensive schools. So for more than a year, U.S. News has embroiled in another caustic dispute about the worthiness of college rankings, this time with dozens of law and medical schools vowing not to supply data to the publisher, saying that rankings sometimes unduly influence the priorities of the university. What? You don't say. But the school records and interviews show that colleges nevertheless feed the rankings, industry collectively pouring millions of dollars into it. It's just unfathomable. Many lower profile colleges are straining to curb enrollment declines and counter shrinking budgets, and any endorsement that might attract students, administrators say, is enticing. Um, this, how about this? You add value for the students who are your ultimate customers. Add some value, innovate, maybe find a way to lower prices, maybe find a way to offer classes at off hours so that people can work and also go to school. This doesn't add any value, right? It doesn't seem like they care, though. They just want to get more students in the door with a marketing campaign. Add some value. How about that? University of Maine at Augusta. Maine and Augusta spent $15,225 last year for the right to market U.S. News badges, handsome seals with U.S. News logos, commemorating 3 honors: the 61st ranked online bachelor's program for veterans, the 79th ranked online bachelor's in business, and the 104th ranked online bachelor's. Mr. Henry, who oversees the school's enrollment management and marketing, said that there's just too much of a risk of being outshined and marketed by competing schools that pay to flash their shiny badges. So it's basically just FOMO. He said there's too much risk of being outshined. It doesn't talk about any tangible return on their investment or the money they paid. Sounds like an ego badge to me. If we could ignore them, wouldn't that be grand, Mr. Henry said of U.S. News, but you can't ignore the Leviathan that they are. Really? How many students do you know that signed up at your school because of your ranking? Like, I would be interested in that kind of data. Nor can colleges ignore how families evaluate schools. The Amazonification of how we judge a product's quality, he said, has infiltrated higher education as consumer and prospective students alike seek order from chaos. I mean, I guess I do have to kind of agree with that. You got to find a way to sift through it. But personally, from my experience or my opinion and my perspective, you need to be factoring in costs when you're checking out a school. I mean, cost honestly should be the number one indicating factor. Outside of the school being accredited, that's, I guess, number one. Make sure it's an accredited school. Then cost should be your number one thing, because guess what? 4 or 5 years after you go to school, nobody's going to care where you went. Nobody's going to care. They're going to worry about your work history. A full 5 years after you go to school, nobody will care what you got your major in or where you went. The money flows from schools large and small. Oh, is this Mr. Henry? This is Mr. Henry. Yes, this is Mr. Henry. What a grand fellow. The University of Nebraska at Kearney, which has about 6,000 students, brought a U.S. News digital marketing license for $8,500 in September. The Citadel, South Carolina's military college, moved in August to spend $50,000 for the right to use its rankings online, in print and on television, among other places. In 2022, the University of Alabama shelled out $32,525 to promote its rankings in programs like engineering and nursing. And again, do we really think the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, needs to be promoting rankings in engineering and nursing? I doubt it. How many students do you already turn away? For Pete's sakes. Critics believe that the payments from the schools of any size, wealth, and enable and incentivize a ranking system that they see as harmful. I still cannot believe that higher education has collectively paid them to skew what we do in higher education, said Heather Gerken, the dean of Yale Law School. Oh, Yale Law School. Yeah, she's probably for the commoner, I'm sure. Yale Law. Who helped lead the uprising among law and medical schools? The money devoted to this unserious enterprise, she said, could have been used to transform lives, perhaps through financial aid or recruitment of low-income students. Well, I actually agree with her on this, even though, she's coming from the ivory towers of Yale Law, but she's right. She's right. Like, why are we spending, especially, I think Yale is a private institution, but these public institutions, you need to be squeezing every nickel you can. You should not be spending money on badges, right? You just shouldn't. Prices are off the chains anyways. U.S. News said its business of licensing its logo reflects its reputation. The rankings, U.S. News leaders said, help students and parents find clarity in a crowded and confusing college marketplace and let quality schools break through more easily with prospects. And their quality because what? They will pay U.S. News some fee to use their rankings, and that is what makes them quality, I guess? What a crock. These people ought to be ashamed of themselves. Like I said, you've got these young kids going into debt for the rest of their lives trying to pay for this school, and these people are selling rankings and paying thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to put some logo on their website. Outrageous. Outrageous. U.S. News is privately held and says little about its finances, which are fortified by revenues from other rankings, including hospitals, mutual funds, college savings, accounts, and diets, blah, blah, blah. This really came to a push from the community wanting to associate themselves with our brand, said Mr. Gertler. Oh, yeah, okay. So the colleges came to us, and they were just throwing money at us for our badges. So we had to come up with something to satisfy the demand here, right? Okay, Mr. Gertler, said Mr. Gertler. I mean, that's what I'd say if I worked for U.S. News, too, right? I'm not getting on the guy. I don't know him. Whose company began licensing digital badges in 2010, the same year it retired its print news magazine. Oh, so right about the time they needed a new revenue source, like, hey, print's going out of business. What can we do here? We need to get revenue up. So, I have an idea. Badges? Badges, anybody? U.S. News says its education website attracts at least 100 million users a year, and the survey that Art and Science Group, a higher education consultancy, published in September showed that 58% of college-bound high school seniors considered rankings to some degree. Yeah, I guess I can probably believe that. It's a shame, but I can believe it. Like, go to a community college. Go to the place that is cheapest. Stay near home. Work while you're in school. Get your degree on the cheap. When you get out, it's more about your work experience anyways. I'm going to tell you this. If somebody comes to me for a job interview, and I've got some kid fresh out of college that's never done anything, and then I've got somebody who maybe even took 5 years to get through college, but they've been working their whole time. They've got 5 years of work experience on top of slugging their way through college at night. I'm going to look at the person who's had the job. And I know most hiring people are, especially these days, when you've got so many degrees that are in frou-frou and underwater basket weaving with a minor in shenanigans, right? All day long, you're going to win with the work history. Where was I? When Mr. Harry sits in his office a few miles from Maine State House and surveys the New England's college landscape, he sees plenty of schools jockeying for students. And like many of his colleagues across the country, he fears that prospective students will assume his school is of lower quality if it does not promote its rankings and the glitz and eye-catching badges. At the same time, opportunities for the school to make the cut are growing as publishers expand their reach and potential profits by creating new accolades. Right, they're just making more badges. At some point, the badges don't matter because they're just making more badges to sell them. Right, so even if everybody's on the up and up, and they're not influenced by which school pays more for which badges, it's still they're adding badge after badge after badge so that they can sell more product. And guess what? The product after a while gets watered down. The badges don't mean anything. The rankings don't mean anything. U.S. News offers badges in more than 130 categories for graduate programs, including paleontology, petroleum engineering, and doctorate of nursing practice programs in acute adult gerontology. There are at least 85 categories for undergraduate programs, including new ones for economics and psychology degrees. That is the Citadel, South Carolina. All told, if every school purchased every available badge from just traditional underranking grads that were published in September, U.S. News would sell more than 4,400 badges. The best undergraduate nursing programs, about 400 schools could buy a badge. Mr. Gertler, who said the editors developed new categories by considering whether they would attract sufficient interest, defended the nurses' category size, which he suggested was partly a response to campus feedback. I certainly know, he said, that we ended up ranking more because of nursing schools wanted to be paid attention to. And again, Mr. Gertler with the, hey, we had to put more schools in it because more schools, they came to us, they twisted our arm, they said, we want to be in your rankings, we've got to be in your rankings. So we expanded the rankings and we sold more badges. You know, it's a win-win-win. Everybody wins here, right? Although U.S. News remains the industry juggernaut, it is not the only ranking service that sees schools as potential clients. The Wall Street Journal and its partners, for example, sell kits to colleges with prepared graphics and artwork which support the immediate usage of award in your marketing and communication campaigns. New York Times does not sell blah, blah, blah. Ton Gatula, who leads the marketing efforts at Nebraska Kearney, estimated that he receives a solicitation from rankings purveyors just about weekly. Yeah, exactly. So other people are trying to get in on it too. Like I said, they're not gonna. It's not gonna matter anymore because everybody's trying to get in on it, right? And they're just producing more and more badges to sell more and more. Our university doesn't take many of those very seriously, he said. Although Mr. Gulata said it was difficult to trace how the use of U.S. News logo affects a metric like enrollment, he said that the university viewed the publisher as an industry standard and believed that being able to implement street blah, blah, blah. Here's an industry quote. I understand why it makes money, but I think it has a significant negative consequences, said Daniel Diemer, Vanderbilt University, who has condemned the rebuilt formula that U.S. News used for the most recent undergraduate rankings and dropped his school 5 spots to number 8. Yeah, that's why Mr. Diermeyer doesn't agree with them, because his school got dropped 5 rankings. I wonder if his school that went up 5 rankings, if he'd be like, oh yes, these are very accurate and they serve our students to pick which school's the best, right? The chancellor said last month that although Vanderbilt had sometimes purchased the rights to U.S. News badges in the past, he did not expect that to continue. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to continue either. If you drop 5 numbers in your rankings, you know, yeah, you're going to be, not only are you going to be upset with U.S. News and World Reports, but you're not going to want to advertise that to your students. So you're going to stop paying, right? And that therein lies the rub. If you don't get what you want, you stop paying. So can you see how these people might be incentivized to raise the schools' rankings of those schools that pay more, or create more badges that those schools can have upper rankings in so that they can pay more? Do you see how that works? U.S. News insisted its algorithm does not consider whether publishers has business relationship with the schools, and contracts show that U.S. News tells schools that licensing badges will in no way affect positively or negatively the rankings or ratings. Yeah, right. Okay. Yale Law, for instance, has not licensed badges from U.S. News, but has held a share of the top spot for decades. Even after Dean Gerken led a ranking boycott, the school remained number 1. Okay, that's a good example. I'll give him that. But it would be quite obvious if you knocked Yale out of the number 1 spot because they were leading a boycott. What about numbers, let's go 10 through 50? What about those schools, okay? But leaders at schools like Yale acknowledge that they have less need to advertise and ranking than most institutions. Many colleges are far closer to a situation at University of Maine at Augusta, eager for students under pressure pursuing any edge. I always feel like you're closing one eye when you're writing the check because you feel like you're drinking that Kool-Aid, blah, blah, blah. But this should be illegal. That is my take on this. I don't know what you guys think. Get in the comments and let me know if I'm wrong. I'm all about free market. I'm all about capitalism. But all of these schools, most of these schools are supposedly nonprofit, right? Most of these schools are set up for the education of the student. This does not add any value to the education. And so while they are paying for these badges out of the school's budget, where do you think that budget comes from? It comes from the students that are borrowing money. That's the kicker. Most of these kids are borrowing money to go to these schools, and these schools are going around, turning around, and selling badges. So it stinks to high heaven to me, and I think it should be. I don't know. I guess I don't need a law against it because there's already enough laws on the book. But it stinks to high heaven to me, and somebody should stop it. I don't know who. Peace.